This is how Erik Ten Hag's tactics stopped Crystal Palace. When Martinez and Varane had the ball on the opponent's half, Man United played with 4 midfielders since Wan-Bissaka joined Casemiro, Fred and Bruno. Meanwhile, in the front line, Shaw was playing wide, Rashford and Weghorst were playing as strikers, meanwhile Antony gave width on the right side. This offensive structure was a consequence of Crystal Palace's defensive structure, since they were defending with a 1-4-4-2. Thus, United tried to occupy the spaces between the lines. But when Man United tried to progress through the flanks, Wan-Bissaka occupied the half spaces. As a consequence, he dragged Crystal Palace fullback and left Antony free. As he occupied really well the half space, he also dragged one midfielder and left Antony on a 1-to-1 situation, and this created a space for Antony. When Antony overcame his mark, it was important how Casemiro arrived to the final third with surprise, and his run created a space for a passing line to Bruno Fernandes, who had a great understanding since Casemiro ran to the box and Bruno Fernandes dropped back. As he received with space on the final third, he attracted to 5 Crystal Palace midfielders, and this created a space for Lisandro Martinez, who identified really well that on the opposite flank Shaw and Rashford were free. Thanks that he played fast, United had a 2 versus 2 on the left flank. Therefore, it was important who would occupy the half space that Crystal Palace left. Thus, Shaw made smart movements of the ball, because he ran to the half space and Rashford played fast with him. As a consequence, Shaw received with time in the half space, and on the box Weghorst and Bruno attract to 5 Crystal Palace players, and Antony's arriving with space on the edge of the box. However, there was a rebound and Rashford was faster than Hughes. Rashford tried to play it across and Man United gained a penalty kick. Another variation that Man United used to progress on the opposite half was to drop back Bruno Fernandes near the defenders, and this freed Casemiro and Fred. But also Weghorst moved to the half space to help Rashford. As Rashford received with space, the opponent's fullback would go close to him, and this would create a gap on Crystal Palace defensive line, where Weghorst took advantage of this because he ran to the free space and waited for the runs of Casemiro and Fred, who arrived with surprise on the opponent's box. Also, they made smart movements because Fred ran to the first post, Antony to the second post and Casemiro to the penalty spot, and United had a clear chance. When Man United were off the ball, they were clever and aggressive to press, since Rashford helped Weghorst on the opponent's box and they had numerical inferiority of 2 versus 3. However, they were supported really well by Antony, Bruno, Fred and one fullback, this time Shaw. So when Crystal Palace tried to progress through the flanks, Shaw went over the opponent's fullback. He was supported by Casemiro, and his teammates made individual marking over the opponents. Thus, when the opponent tried to move the ball forward, also one center back, like this time Lisandro Martinez, pressed there to have a 3 versus 2 in this zone. But also they were fast in defensive transitions, because the defenders were always close to their mark and didn't give space to them. Also, the midfielders like Casemiro usually dropped back quickly to recover the ball. As soon as Crystal Palace played backwards, Weghorst, Bruno and Rashford were fast to start the pressure, and many times this helped them to recover the ball in the final third and had a 3 versus 2 in this zone. Casemiro was also important in the offensive transitions because he arrived to the box with surprise. The times Man United's pressure didn't work because Crystal Palace had numerical superiority or United's players were far from his mark, it was important how they detected the free spaces where Crystal Palace could progress. As we can see, Casemiro detected that space and he follows Crystal Palace player to recover the ball. On the second half, Varane and Lisandro Martinez were important because Crystal Palace had many offensive transitions, but the center backs were smart to stop them. As we can see, Martinez is holding out to the striker and waiting for Varane. He kicked out the ball from the striker and Lisandro Martinez had to fight with the striker for the ball, and as we can see, the butcher take the ball out. The times Crystal Palace exploit the spaces between the lines and got right of Man United's midfielder, Varane and Martinez were outstanding, since Martinez has two passes to cover, one to the second post and the other to the closest striker. He waited for the right time and made a fantastic tackle. When Garnacho came in, he gave another speed to United's attack. He knows that there is a 3 versus 3 in this flank and they won't be able to progress, therefore he passed backwards with Fred. But Fred was smart to play back with Garnacho, who had space in front Crystal Palace midfielders. Therefore they switched the attack quickly from the left to the right, and this isolated Antony on the flank. Also Casemiro and Garnacho would run inside. When Antony received the ball, the combination between Bruno, Antony and Wan-Bissaka got right of Crystal Palace players. Casemiro, who was in the box, dropped back to receive the ball. Meanwhile, Garnacho ran to the box to create a space for Casemiro. And on first touch, Casemiro played with Garnacho. He saw that Shaw is free on the left side and waited for the right time to play with him. Rashford made a smart movements off the ball because he moved between Crystal Palace center backs and this gave space to shoot. When Casemiro was sent off and Crystal Palace scored, Ten Hag brought in Sabitzer and he showed his great skills first with the ball. As we can see, Varane recovered the ball and Sabitzer received and played fast with Fred, but immediately he kept running to the space and tried to play with Rashford. While Rashford had the ball, he kept attacking the space between Crystal Palace center backs. Yet Rashford lost the ball and he read really well where to run because Garnacho will be close, the number 7, and Shaw would cover the passing line. Therefore he knows that Crystal Palace right back would receive free, so he was aggressive to run over him and recover the ball. In the same way he kept running because he detected the space between the opponent's midfielders and defenders. When Man United was off the ball, Sabitzer was smart to detect the team weaknesses, since there's a space between Varane and Lisandro Martinez, and he occupied that space and cleared the ball. But also he knows that there is a space behind Rashford and Fred. He anticipated that movement and went to press the opponent. This helped United to recover the ball. Leave your thoughts about Erik Ten Hag's tactics and Sabitzer first game. Don't forget to subscribe and thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by Play by Metrica Sports, the fundamental tool for every coach and analyst. Create and manage all your video analysis in one platform. Use coupon NasirSelad at checkout for a 10% discount.